Today, we're diving into the story of a pioneering cybercrime researcher, Dancho Danchev. We're going to trace his journey right from his own memoir, from the kind of Wild West days of the 90s internet all the way to the front lines of modern cyber warfare. So, can you imagine being so good at tracking down the internet's worst criminals that they actually know you by name? Well, for Dancho Danchev, this wasn't just some hypothetical. It was a real high-stakes game where the line between being the hunter and being the hunted got seriously blurry. You see, Danchev's work on the Kubefaced gang, who ran this massive army of infected computers called a botnet, it was so spot on, so detailed that they just couldn't ignore him. So they did something pretty wild. They reached out to him directly. I mean, that's a quote right from his memoir. It's one thing to study criminals from a safe distance, right? But it's a whole other level when they start leaving you hello notes on their own secret servers. It was this bizarre, surreal hat tip to just how much of an impact he was having. So the question is, how did a single researcher even get to that point? To really get how Danchev became this kind of force to be reckoned with, we've got to go back, way back to the 90s. This was an era before cybersecurity was this huge industry. It was a time of pure exploration, a ton of experimentation, and honestly, a totally different online culture. And this quote? It just nails the whole vibe of the early internet. Danchev saw himself as a hacker enthusiast, you know? He was part of this community where knowledge was everything, and you shared it freely. That whole idea, that foundation of open information, would end up being the core of all his future work. And this is what that world actually looked like. Forget the clean, minimalist websites you see today. We are talking about text-based digital magazines, e-zines, and these early web portals with like black backgrounds and glowing red text. This was the digital playground where a whole generation of security experts learned their craft. And the most important thing here is that learning was all hands-on. Danchev wasn't just reading books about this stuff. No way. He was diving headfirst into hacking portals, passing around Trojan horses with friends, these malicious programs disguised as normal files, just to see how they worked. He was finding and exploiting flaws in early chat programs. He was learning the tools of the trade by actually using them. So all that hands-on experience, it totally set the stage for a huge pivot. Danchev went from being this behind-the-scenes guy to a public authority, someone whose work would be read by millions of people, including some of the most important players in global security. Just look at his career path here. He starts out in '99 managing a database on Trojans. By 2003, he's the managing director of Hasta La Vista, which was a huge hacker portal back in the day. But really, the launch of his personal blog in 2005, that was the real game changer. 5.6 million page views. Let that sink in for a second. As he said himself, that's not necessarily bad for a one-man operation. This wasn't some big media company. This was one guy, with his dedicated research, just grabbing the attention of a massive global audience. And you can see that impact right here. This graph shows years of steady, high-volume traffic. His blog, called Mind Streams of Information Security Knowledge, wasn't just a popular read. It became an absolutely essential source of intelligence for the entire security industry. And check out who was reading it. We're talking fellow researchers, sure, but also U.S. law enforcement, even people inside the U.S. intelligence community. His personal blog had become required reading for the people on the absolute front lines of fighting cybercrime. So what was he writing that was so incredible? What was in these cybercrime files that had everyone hooked? Okay, let's get into the heart of his work, his method for pulling back the curtain on this huge, hidden world of cybercrime. His secret weapon was something called OSINT, Open Source Intelligence. And the philosophy behind it is actually pretty simple, but incredibly powerful. The clues you need, they're often already out there, just hiding in plain sight. And this is why it's such a game changer. It showed that one person, if they're dedicated enough, can uncover huge secrets just by knowing where to look and how to connect all the dots. And this sketch is the perfect example of that in action. He drew this during a presentation, and just look at it. It's a map of the entire Kubefaced operation, from how they infected computers to how they made their money. He took all these separate pieces of public information and literally drew a picture of their whole criminal enterprise for the world to see. Which brings us right back to that incredible moment. After Danchev published an article called Top 10 Things You Didn't Know About the Kubefaced Gang,
the gang themselves answered. They left a message on their command and control server, going through his points one by one. I mean, he wasn't just reporting on them anymore. He was practically in a conversation with one of the most notorious cybercrime gangs on the planet. And the shockwaves from this kind of work were huge. We're talking research cited in the New York Times and on CNN. He was presenting at the biggest security conferences and was even consulting for agencies like GCHQ and Interpol. When it came to the Kubeface botnet, he became the go-to source of information for, well, everyone.
But here's the thing. It was never just about what he found. It was about what he chose to do with that knowledge. His ultimate mission, which he spells out in his memoir, was always to share it. Here he is, on stage, in front of a totally packed room, breaking down everything he found. That act of sharing is really the core of his legacy, turning what he discovered on his own into powerful knowledge for the entire community.
And he says it best himself. He wrote his memoir to empower people, other researchers, security experts, even just the general public. He isn't just telling his life story, he's literally handing over a blueprint for the next generation of digital detectives.
Ultimately, Dancho Danchev's story really proves that one person, armed with just curiosity and public information, can expose massive global criminal networks. And it leaves us with a pretty big question. In today's crazy cyber landscape, just how vital is that single, independent voice?